Assalamu alaikum. Siti and her friends end up stranded on an island, cursed for 200 years. Unknowingly, they wake up a vengeful spirit haunting that island. As a result, Siti's friends start dying one by one under the wrath of this terrifying ghost who has been asleep for 2 centuries. Who is this ghost? Why did she curse this island in the first place? And will Siti be able to break this curse and protect herself and her friends from the ghost's clutches? To find out, we must dive into today's Malaysian horror story titled Pulau. So without further ado, let's get straight into the story. The story begins with a glimpse of an abandoned, forbidden island. There we see a ghost from 200 years ago who is cursing the villagers, everyone living on the island. From here, the scene shifts and we are introduced to a girl named Kat. It turns out she's been having these nightmares. She wakes up from this bizarre dream, unable to understand why she keeps having these recurring nightmares. Just then, her friend Din arrives. It's not just Din and Kat, they're accompanied by a group of friends. They're all heading out for a trip to an island. The surrounding area is dotted with many small islands, which makes them super excited. While there, Din and Kat visit a local shop. Showing her a unique bracelet, Din tells Kat that if a guy puts this bracelet on the girl he loves, they will supposedly stay together for the rest of their lives. Kat doesn't believe in such things. Din then offers to put it on her to prove it, hinting that he has feelings for Kat. However, before he can finish his sentence, their other friend Lily shows up, leaving his feelings unspoken. Kat never gets to find out. We also find out that Lily's cousin Ben has joined them on the trip. Now they all board a boat owned by Mortazal and head to their destination island. They're thoroughly enjoying their trip. Watching Lily, it's clear she's a vlogger. Another girl named Yus is also with them. While they're checking in and completing their booking at the resort, Yus's stepsister and her group of friends suddenly arrive. Seeing them ruins Yus's mood. She really didn't want to run into her stepsister on a vacation like this. The relationship between the two is incredibly strained, which temporarily dampens her spirits. Now Lily comes over and hands them some pamphlets. These brochures contain maps of all the neighboring islands. Kat is standing in a corner looking at them when Lily's cousin Ben approaches her. Ben strikes up a conversation with Kat with a warm smile. Now Kat has another name, which is Siti. From here on, we'll refer to her as Siti. Seeing Siti and Ben chatting and laughing together, Din feels a bit down as he still hasn't been able to confess his feelings to Siti. Now Siti is in her room unpacking her belongings. Meanwhile, Yus and Lily are chatting. Suddenly, Siti hears a mysterious voice. It sounds like someone screaming in pain, telling a girl named Molly that they'll never be apart. Startled by this sudden voice, Siti gets quite scared. Lily comes over and asks if she's seeing those strange things again. Siti says this time it feels different. Ever since coming on this trip, she stops herself mid-sentence and tells Lily not to worry about her and just enjoy the trip instead. While the others are busy enjoying themselves in the pool, Siti's admirer, Din, sits by the side looking at the bracelet.
It turns out he actually bought it. The only one who knew about his feelings for Siti was his best friend, Daoud. Daoud advises Din to confess his feelings to Siti before it's too late. He mentions that it seems Ben also likes Siti. However, Din is completely confident that Siti would never say yes to Ben. From their conversation, we also learn that Daoud and Yus liked each other. They were very close, which prompts Din to warn Daoud if he doesn't truly love Yus, he shouldn't lead her on. It could get Daoud into trouble, which is the last thing Din wants. At that time, Ben and Mark were sitting by the beach. Ben was sitting there smoking. From Mark's words, we learn that Ben has already smoked a lot of cigarettes, prompting him to warn him. Mark asks Ben why he even came on this trip since he isn't enjoying himself like the others. Ben replies that he came on this trip to escape a deep sorrow. What that sorrow is, we don't know yet. As night falls, everyone is enjoying themselves in their own way. Meanwhile, City catches sight of something very bizarre. She sees that while Ben is smoking, the spirit of a woman standing next to him looks deeply saddened. City has the ability to see supernatural entities like spirits, ghosts, and jinns. As City keeps staring at the spirit, Ben starts to feel uneasy. He assumes City doesn't like his smoking, so he puts out his cigarette. Instantly, the spirit looks pleased. Din, who is quite playful, wants to go dance with the others. However, City prefers to watch the nearby fire performance, so Din follows her. He plans to use this opportunity to confess his feelings and propose to her. But to his disappointment, he sees City walking straight up to Ben. It turns out she came over just to watch the show with Ben. Once again, poor Din misses his chance to confess. The next morning, they set out early with Mortazal to tour the islands. Ben notices an amulet around Mortazal's neck and asks if they're visiting a special place today. Mortazal replies that they aren't. He explains that he inherited the amulet from his ancestors. He doubts it can protect him from danger, believing that only God can truly save them from any harm. Yuse's stepsister's group is on the boat with them. Suddenly, Lily spots a beautiful island ahead. This is the very island we saw at the beginning of the movie. They want to go there, but Mortazal informs them that they cannot, as it is a forbidden island. Hearing this, City stares intently at the island. Eventually, they reach their designated diving spot. After anchoring the boat, everyone dives into the water, swimming and enjoying themselves among the fish. At one point, City gets separated from the group. Suddenly, a human skull floats right in front of her, terrifying her. We see that the seabed is littered with numerous human skeletons. Meanwhile, everyone else has gotten back onto the boat, except for City. The moment Din realizes this, he immediately jumps into the water without second thought. Seeing this, Mortazal gets worried and dives in after him along with his assistant. Back underwater, City has lost consciousness from the shock of seeing the skull. Fortunately, Din manages to find her. While unconscious, City experiences bizarre visions related to black magic. In the meantime, Din successfully pulls her out of the water, saving her life. Mortazal looks deeply concerned after seeing her condition. He feels that nature is warning them through this incident, so that night he gathers both groups around a campfire to discuss the Forbidden Island's history. He reveals that 200 years ago, a woman cursed the island, causing the entire village to perish in a single night.
Even to this day, their bodies have never been found. Hearing this, Sethi asks what happened to the girl who cast the curse. When the other group starts joking about it, Mortozol stops them, warning them that what happened to Sethi was a warning sign. He urges everyone to stay cautious before walking away. The moment he leaves, an argument breaks out between the two groups. The two stepsisters, Yus and Teeny, place a bet. They decide to play a game to determine who wins and who loses. The losing team has to spend a night on that terrifying island. The games begin, and finally, it's Sethi's turn. Mid-game, Sethi suddenly has another vision. She sees people urging her to flee, with fires burning all around. Terrified by the vision, she freezes up, causing her team to lose the game. This means they are forced to spend a night on the cursed island. That night, Sethi experiences more bizarre and frightening dreams. The next morning, as they set off for the island, she talks to Lily. She mentions that ever since arriving here, everything she has envisioned in her dreams feels connected to that island. When Lily expresses concern, Sethi tries to play it down, saying she might just be overthinking things. At that moment, Din arrives. He reassures Sethi, letting her know he has packed everything they might need so she doesn't have to worry. Din tries once again to confess his feelings to her, but before he can, Ben calls them from the boat. Once again, Din misses his chance. As they approach the island, the terrifying sight of it from a distance begins to unnerve them. It looks as though thick black clouds are hanging directly over the island, as if it is warning them to stay away. However, having lost the bet, they have no other choice. Two members of the opposing team drop them off on the island. As they get off the boat, Mark tells them to make sure they return early the next morning to pick them up. Mark is visibly terrified, which prompts the other two to tease him before heading back. Now they have to spend a full 24 hours on this isolated island. The thought of this deeply worries Mark, while his friends start making fun of him. They all jump into the water, laughing and playing, completely unaware of the grave danger awaiting them on this island. After getting out of the water, everyone takes a break to rest. Meanwhile, Lily is filming for her vlog. Suddenly, she spots an endangered bird, which looks incredibly unique. She calls her friends and starts chasing after it. The others follow close behind. Sethi and Ben warn her not to go too deep into the jungle, but they end up running deep into the forest until they arrive at a mysterious location. It is clear that this is where the 200-year-old village begins. There are two stone statues on either side, indicating that this is the entrance. The entrance is blocked by a rope. However, Daoud steps forward and unties it. By then, Din, Sethi, and Ben catch up with them. Sethi doesn't even have a chance to stop them as they all slowly enter the abandoned village. However, Sethi is reluctant to go inside. Ben convinces her, saying that if they want to survive the night, they must stick together. He tells her to stop arguing and follow the others. Once inside the village, they come across a 200-year-old wooden house. There is an amulet or charm written in an unknown language, likely meant to ward off evil. Din walks up and opens the door. Seeing this, Ben suggests to Sethi that they check it out as well, noting that every house has a similar charm written on the outside. The surrounding environment gives Sethi a terrible feeling. She notices Daoud defacing one of the stone statues outside. She immediately goes over and tells the others to stop fooling around. She reminds them that this place is 2 centuries old and located in a deep jungle, so they must show respect. Din agrees with her. After Din's warning, Daoud stops joking around. Din mentions that the house looks fine and suggests they spend the night there. They all agree it's a good idea, way better than camping out on the beach. Once inside, they divide up the chores. However, Sethi, Ben, and Lily are the only ones actually working, while the others just sit around joking. When Lily tells them to do their share of the work, Din shrugs it off, saying they have plenty of time and can do it slowly. Din then notices Ben working closely with Sethi. He decides to warn Ben directly. He walks up to Ben and tells him to keep his distance from Sethi, revealing that he loves her. Ben doesn't respond. Just then, Sethi drops something, and Ben rushes over to help her. This makes Din realize that Ben isn't going to listen to him. After lighting a fire outside, they head indoors to sleep. In the middle of the night, Ben is suddenly awoken by the sound of a door creaking. He sees the door slowly opening on its own. He gets up to check if there is anything outside. The atmosphere is eerily quiet. Ben doesn't stay outside for long. He checks on everyone, locks the door, and goes back to bed. Shortly after, Sethi wakes up. As she sits up, she is shocked to see all her friends sitting bolt upright, completely unresponsive. It is a highly unnatural sight. When she goes to shake Lily, Lily instantly drops back down to sleep. One by one, they all fall back down. What we notice is that when Ben woke up earlier, they were all sleeping randomly, but this time they are lying down in a perfectly straight, neat line. Everything feels incredibly off to Sethi. In the midst of this, a faint groaning sound echoes from outside. Sethi gets up and steps out of the house. She tries to trace where the sound is coming from. It sounds as if someone is weeping for a loved one. Following the sound, Sethi reaches a spot where she suddenly experiences another vision from 200 years ago. A girl is weeping over the dead body of her lover. The villagers are standing around, but none of them step forward to help her.
Instead, they drag the girl away and bury the young man's body in a freshly dug grave right there. An elder among the villagers warns everyone to make sure no one ever finds out about this, stating that the matter should never be spoken of again. The spot where the boy was buried is marked with a few stones. Afterwards, they set fire to their house. As the house burns down, the girl sits in front of it, weeping and clutching something in her hand. She cries out, wishing that their tragic love story will be remembered for thousands of years, and that everyone will feel the pain of lost love. Sithi then sees the girl entering a cave in the mountains, performing black magic and casting a curse on the entire village. During her incantation, she declares that the more blood she drinks, the stronger her curse will become, and that this curse shall remain on this island for eternity. Saying this, she drinks her own blood and transforms into a terrifying creature. With this horrifying nightmare, Sithi wakes up. By then, morning has arrived. Sithi realizes that everything she saw last night was just a dream. Now, everyone packs up and heads to the beach. They start fishing and enjoying themselves. Mark is desperately trying to get a signal on his phone, while Lily has already given up and is browsing through her gallery. Ben comes over and sits with them. While looking at her photos, Lily suddenly gasps in shock. In her gallery, there is a photo taken last night showing all of them sleeping in a perfectly straight, eerie line. But the biggest question is, if everyone was asleep, who took the photo? Lily is completely baffled.
Then, Sithi reveals that she had a dream exactly like that last night. Ben asks her what the dream was about. Sithi tells him not to mention this to the others because she doesn't want them to panic. She figures they will be leaving soon anyway. However, things don't go as planned. The entire day passes and evening falls, but no one from the other team comes to pick them up. They realize they've been ditched. With no boat, there is no way for them to leave the island. This means they're stuck here for another night. So, before sunset, Din suggests returning to the old house in the abandoned village. However, Sithi, Ben, and Lily are reluctant to go back there because of the photograph they saw. Since the others haven't seen the photo and they don't want to cause a panic, they keep it to themselves. Since the majority of the group wants to stay in the village house, they're forced to head back. Meanwhile, we see Yusa's stepsister and her friends laughing about how they plan to leave them on the island for another day before picking them up tomorrow. Unbeknownst to them, Mortezal overhears their entire conversation. Mortezal is absolutely furious with them. Despite his warnings, they pulled this dangerous prank on the other team. Since night has already fallen, Mortezal cannot go rescue them immediately. Instead, he sends them a voice message, warning them that if they find an abandoned village in the jungle, they must not enter under any circumstances. If they do, they will fall victim to the curse of a terrifying ghost. Unfortunately, poor Lily and the others have no cell service, so they unknowingly return to the village. To their surprise, they find that despite cleaning the entire house the previous night, it is covered in dirt and debris once again. They clean the room all over again. While changing her clothes, Yus gets some help from Daoud. Here, Daoud suggests that once everyone falls asleep tonight, they slip away into the jungle to look at fireflies. Yus agrees to the idea. Once everyone is asleep, the two sneak out of the house. They walk through the forest and arrive at a spot near the pile of stones. This is the very spot where the young man was buried 200 years ago. There, they begin sharing an intimate moment. Their romance inadvertently awakens the curse of the village, the ghost. Daoud accidentally kicks and scatters the marked stones with his feet. This causes the spirit to take on a terrifyingly aggressive form. Instantly sensing the danger, Sithi wakes up from her sleep. Upon waking, she finds herself completely alone in the house. Once again, she is pulled 200 years into the past, seeing the villagers carrying torches, preparing to attack someone. Sithi sees that the woman has now transformed into a horrific creature. She screams at the villagers, telling them they must now pay for their sins. Possessed by a malevolent supernatural force, she unleashes her wrath upon the villagers, slaughtering the villagers one by one. Terrified by the sight, Sithi runs back inside. She accidentally bumps into Ben and falls to the ground, snapping back to the present.
Ben asks her what happened, and Siti begins to explain everything to him. Meanwhile, we see Yus urinating directly on the marked stones. It's clear that this disrespectful act will have terrible consequences. Daoud tells Yus they should head back now. Suddenly, an unseen force drags him violently into the dark jungle. Yus is left completely frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. Back at the house, Ben asks Siti how she is able to see all of this. Siti reveals her secret. She possesses a supernatural gift that allows her to see and hear the dead.
She mentions the night of the barbecue. She tells him she saw a woman standing near him that night, a gentle-looking woman with a mole on her face. Hearing this, Ben pulls out a photo of his mother on his phone. Siti confirms that she was indeed the woman she saw. Ben reveals that his mother passed away 2 years ago. He can barely believe Siti's words. Just then, Yus runs into the house in a panic. She frantically informs everyone that something dragged Daoud away. Din is instantly hit with panic, as Daoud isn't just his best friend, but like a brother to him. He rallies everyone to go search for Daoud immediately. They split up to search the jungle for Daoud. An hour passes, but there is still no sign of him. Ben suggests they call off the search and head back, warning that staying out in the dark puts them all in danger. Hearing this, Din loses his temper. He refuses to go back without Daoud. One by one, they try to reason with him. When he refuses to listen to anyone, Siti steps in. She promises him they will resume the search first thing in the morning, but tells him they must return to the house for the night, because the jungle is extremely dangerous. She points out they can't risk everyone's life for one person. Reluctantly, Din agrees, and they head back to the house. We then see Daoud, who is tied up inside the cave where the girl performed her black magic 200 years ago. Calling her a girl would be wrong now, as she has transformed into a hideous ghost. She attacks Daoud, slits his throat, and kills him. Then she begins to drink his blood. Consuming human blood after so many years instantly rejuvenates her, restoring her dark powers. Meanwhile, unaware that Daoud is already dead, a sleepless Din cannot close his eyes out of worry. As soon as morning arrives, Din is fully prepared to search the entire jungle for Daoud. He suggests they split up to cover more ground, arguing that they won't be able to search the vast forest otherwise. However, Ben insists they stay together as a group, warning that splitting up will only increase their vulnerability. When Din resists, Siti says she agrees with Ben. Din is forced to comply. Mark decides to stay behind at the house, reasoning that if Daoud returns, he can explain everything to him. With that decided, the rest of the group sets off together. Meanwhile, Mortazal sets out in his boat to rescue them. He brings Yus's stepsister and her friends along with him, since they are the ones responsible for this mess. He believes they need to see firsthand the danger they have put Yus and her friends in by leaving them stranded. As they are on their way, Siti and the others are frantically searching the jungle for Daoud. Suddenly, in the middle of the sea, Mortazal's boat breaks down and black smoke begins billowing from the engine. Mortazal realizes that the evil force is trying to stop them from reaching the island. Mortazal begins reciting ancient prayers passed down by his ancestors. Miraculously, the smoke stops and the boat's engine starts running again. Meanwhile, a heavy downpour begins in the jungle. Mark is waiting alone in the house when Kitty suddenly arrives. Kitty is one of the girls from the stepsisters group, and Mark has had his eye on her since the beginning of the trip. As the heavy rain continues, the others are starting to fall ill from exhaustion. Ben and the rest urge Din to return to the shelter, but Din refuses to leave without Daoud. Ben then points out that they are walking in circles and returning to the same spot. When Din asks how he knows, Ben shows him a piece of string he had tied to a tree earlier.
It turns out they have indeed wound up in the exact same spot. Seeing this, Din stops arguing and agrees to head back to Mark. Meanwhile, back at the shelter, Mark is with Kitty, unaware that she is actually the ghost in disguise. In an instant, the ghost reveals her true form and brutally attacks Mark.
Shortly after, Sethi and the group return to the house and are horrified. Their bags are still there, but Mark is gone, leaving behind only a pool of blood. Seeing the blood, they realize they are in grave danger. Ben doesn't want to waste another second. He tells everyone they must head to the beach immediately so they can be ready to leave the moment rescue arrives. When Din refuses to leave without Dowd, they convince him by suggesting that Mark and Dowd might have already headed to the shore. However, when they reach the beach, there is no sign of the boat, nor of Mark and Dowd. This drives Din absolutely mad with anger. Ben tells Sethi that it's time to reveal the truth to the others, showing them the photograph and explaining everything Sethi has experienced so they can grasp the gravity of the situation. Lily shows the photo on her phone to Din and Yus, while Sethi shares her supernatural experiences. Just then, Din's phone temporarily catches a signal, and Mortazal's voice message finally comes through. In the message, Mortazal warns them about the abandoned village, explaining that when the curse first plagued the village, a shaman was brought in to banish the vengeful spirit. However, the ghost's power was so immense that the shaman had to sacrifice his own life to save the few remaining villagers. He crafted 2 stone statues to act as amulets, binding them together with a rope. Through a ritual, he sacrificed his life to create a protective barrier, preventing the spirit from leaving the village boundaries. He warns them never to go there, enter the village, or touch anything inside. They realize that they had unknowingly broken the seal and freed the ghost. The realization fills them with absolute dread. Just then, they spot Mortazal's boat approaching at high speed in the distance. Overjoyed, they wave and celebrate. However, black smoke suddenly begins pouring from the boat once again, and it violently explodes right before their eyes, killing everyone on board. Yus's stepsister and her entire group are killed instantly, and Mortazal perishes as well. Now there is no one left to rescue them. No one else even knows they're on this island. They are left completely devastated and terrified. Sethi feels that the only way to escape this island is to return to the village. She wants to go back there, but Yus is completely broken down. However, Lily has absolute faith in Sethi, so she and Din agree to return to the village with her. The 5 remaining friends make their way back. First, they tie the rope back in its original place across the entrance. Then they wipe away all the graffiti they had drawn on the faces of the 2 stone amulets and beg for forgiveness. Next, they head to the spot where Dowd disappeared. Sethi recalls her dream where a man was buried at this very location, and she decides they need to dig it up. The moment she touches the stones, a strong wind begins to howl through the trees. Ignoring the ominous sign, they start digging and eventually uncover a human skeleton. As Sethi touches the bones, she is pulled into a vision of what happened 200 years ago. A girl named Molly lived in this village with her husband. She was pregnant at the time, and her husband loved her dearly. One night, the villagers attack their home. It turns out her husband was an outsider. Even though Molly was a local girl, she had married an outsider from a different religion.
Molly begs them, explaining that she had even converted, but the narrow-minded villagers refuse to listen. That very night, they brutally murder Molly's husband and bury his body on the spot. Experiencing this vision snaps Sethi back to reality. She already knows what followed from her previous nightmares. Sethi realizes that the photo on the first night was a warning from the ghost. If they had left the island on the first day, they would have survived. Now, they are cursed, and the only way to survive is to break it. Ben reasons that they can only find out how to break the curse by going to the exact location where it was cast, the cave where the black magic was performed. Din agrees with this logic, so Sethi leads them toward the cave. On their way, Din takes a weapon from one of the stone statues. As they walk through the dense jungle, the ghost can be seen lurking in the shadows, but because they stay close together as a group, she doesn't attack. When Ben goes alone to collect water, he catches a glimpse of the ghost's face reflected in the water. Terrified, Ben quickly rushes back to the group. Sithi senses that the ghost is stalking them, and she is absolutely right. We see the horrifying spirit hiding behind the trees. Soon, they reach a waterfall and must cross the water to get to the other side. To ensure everyone's safety, Ben steps into the water first, while Din crosses to the opposite bank. One by one, they begin to cross. Lily is the last to cross. At that moment, we see the ghost waiting under the water. Lily steps in and hands her backpack to Ben. Suddenly, the ghost emerges right in front of Lily and attacks Ben underwater, grabbing him by the throat. In self-defense, Ben stabs the ghost with the weapon he took from the statue, forcing her to let go. However, the ghost quickly recovers and appears behind Lily, dragging her underwater in the blink of an eye. Losing her best friend, Sithi is completely devastated. They have now witnessed the true extent of the danger they're in. Din notices that the bracelet is missing from his pocket. It had fallen onto a rock and slipped into the water. With no hope left, they feel utterly defeated. But Sithi refuses to give up. She still believes that breaking the curse will bring back all the friends they have lost, as they never intended to harm the spirit. Inspired by her words, Ben and Din regain their resolve, and the group sets off to find the cave. As night falls, they start a campfire to rest, and Ben volunteers to keep watch during the first shift, prompting Din to go to sleep. Din feels uneasy seeing Sithi sit close to Ben, but he doesn't say anything. Ben and Sithi share an emotional conversation where Ben talks about his mother and Lily. Sithi, having lost her best friend Lily, is also in deep pain. Suddenly, a noise echoes from the dark jungle. Ignoring Sithi's warnings, Ben runs up to investigate. To his disbelief, Ben sees his mother standing in front of him. Sithi runs up and warns Ben that the woman standing there is not his mother. Confused, Ben raises his weapon towards his mother's spirit, causing her to vanish, proving that it was indeed the ghost in disguise. Meanwhile, the ghost takes advantage of their absence to attack Yus. Hearing a scream, Din wakes up in a panic. Ben and Sithi rush back, only to find the tarp collapsed on the ground. Din pulls back the tarp, and the ghost suddenly flies off into the night, carrying Yus. Only the three of them are left now, but an argument soon breaks out between Din and Ben as they blame each other for everything that has happened. Sithi screams at them to stop fighting, and she notices they have finally arrived at the cave. Din tells Ben that if anything goes wrong, Ben must save Sithi and flee without worrying about him, knowing how deeply he cares for her. Ben, knowing Din's feelings, remains silent. They enter the cave together.
Inside the cave, we see Yus, who wakes up tied to a stone altar, only to be immediately attacked and killed by the ghost. At that moment, Sithi, Din, and Ben reach the depths of the cave and come face to face with the terrifying spirit. Ben and Din engage in a desperate fight against the ghost, using their weapons. Meanwhile, Sithi hears a voice echoing in the cave. It is the voice of Molly's husband. The voice repeats the loving words Molly's husband had spoken to her, which Sithi can hear clearly. Sithi approaches a mysterious box in the cave. Upon opening it, she finds a small doll inside, the same doll Molly's husband had carved for her when she was pregnant. Sithi picking up the doll infuriates the ghost, who throws Ben and Din aside and lunges at Sithi. Sithi tries to escape with the doll, but the ghost corners her and grabs her by the throat. Just as she is about to be strangled, Sithi calls out the ghost's name, Molly. She starts repeating the loving words her husband had spoken to her. Hearing this, the spirit calms down. Sithi gently questions Molly about her unborn child, reminding her of the life they could have shared. We are shown another vision of the past. The night Molly's husband was killed, the villagers forced Molly to drink a poisonous herbal potion which caused her to suffer a miscarriage. Losing her husband and her child, Molly's sorrow turned into pure vengeance, prompting her to cast the curse. Understanding her pain, Sithy tells Molly that it is time to let go of her hatred and free the souls of her husband and child so they can be reunited in the afterlife. Moved to tears, Molly pushes Sithy back, causing her to fall into the water. Molly picks up the doll left on the bamboo platform. Weeping, she recites her curse in reverse, lifting the dark spell from the island. With the curse broken, Molly's soul is finally set free. Sithy sinks into the water as time begins to rapidly reverse itself. She wakes up back on the boat on the day they went diving, with all her friends alive and well. Sithy is overjoyed to see them all safe. Din approaches her and hands her the bracelet. Knowing his feelings, Sithy accepts it, but puts it in her bag, asking him to wait as she is still a bit confused. Then she goes over to Ben, hinting that her heart actually belongs to him. At the end of the story, we see Molly's spirit reunited with her husband on the beach in the afterlife, finally finding the peace they were denied in life. And with that, today's story comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed this Malaysian horror tale. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. Allah Hafiz.